Okay, so picture this. You've been working a piece of land for decades, planting, harvesting, really putting your sweat and soul into it.
Yeah.
And then one day, a deed pops up claiming someone else owns it.
Oh, wow.
And to make matters worse,
Yeah.
one of the signatures on that deed is from someone who's already passed away.
Whoa.
Talk about a plot twist.
Yeah.
Well, that's the strange situation we're diving into today.
All right.
Exploring a case from the Supreme Court of the Philippines.
Interesting.
Back in 2003.
Oh, okay.
We're going to unpack a legal document, a deed of absolute sale.
All right.
And see how it led to a showdown between a farmer named Fidel Aquino and a lawyer, Oscar Manese.
Sounds like this case goes way beyond just a property dispute.
Absolutely.
It touches on something fundamental, the trust we place in legal documents.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the stakes are high for Fidel Aquino.
Right.
He had been farming this land since 1960.
Wow. So.
Starting as a tenant for the original owner,
Okay.
Police Cardona.
So Aquino has a deep history with this land.
Exactly.
Even if his name wasn't on the original deed.
Exactly. But things got complicated in 1975 when a couple, Antonio and Faye Perez, tried to claim the land as their own.
Oh.
This sparked a legal battle that went all the way to the Court of Appeals.
Wow.
And get this.
Okay.
They ruled in favor of Aquino.
Oh, wow.
Recognizing him as the rightful tenant.
So that's huge.
This is important for you.
Yeah.
Because it shows that even if someone waves a piece of paper claiming ownership, your actual use in history with the land can give you legal protection.
It's like the court acknowledged that ownership isn't just about paperwork. It's about connection.
Yeah.
And how you've interacted with the land over time. Okay, so fast forward to 1994.
Right.
This deed of absolute sale appears, transferring ownership from the heirs of Luis Cardona to a woman named Manese Perez.
Okay.
And guess what?
She's the daughter of the very same couple who tried to take the land from Aquino back in the 70s.
Wow.
Talk about a family feud with some serious history.
It's like they're trying to rewrite history with this new deed.
Right.
But where does the lawyer, Oscar Manese, fit into all of this?
Well, he's the one who notarized the deed of absolute sale, which is supposed to give it legal weight.
Right.
But here's where things get really spooky.
Okay.
One of the signatures on the deed is from a woman named Lilia Cardona, one of the original owner's heirs. Problem is, Lilia died in 1990.
Oh, my goodness.
4 years before this deed was even signed.
Wow.
It's like something out of a ghost story, a dead woman signing a legal document.
That definitely throws a wrench into the validity of that deed.
You got it. And the court wasn't messing around.
Okay.
They had Lilia's death certificate as evidence.
Yeah.
And they even brought in the National Bureau of Investigation to analyze the signature.
Right.
The NBI confirmed it wasn't hers.
Jeez.
So we're not talking about a simple mistake here. This was a deliberate forgery.
That raises the question.
Right.
What did the lawyer have to say for himself? Was he aware of the forgery?
Manese claimed he wasn't expected to know every single person who came to him for notarization.
That seems a bit of a stretch, wouldn't you say?
Right.
Notarizing a document is more than just stamping it.
Right.
It's about verifying its authenticity.
The Supreme Court thought so too.
Yeah.
They said notarization transforms a private document into something admissible in court, and that Manese's actions were reckless. They basically said, look, if we can't trust signatures and notarized documents, the whole legal system falls apart.
It makes you think about all the documents we sign and trust every day.
Exactly.
What are the safeguards in place to prevent something like this from happening to us?
Exactly. This case isn't just about one bad lawyer. It makes you think about how much trust we place in legal systems. And what happens when that trust is broken.
It also highlights the responsibility we all have as citizens to be aware of these vulnerabilities and take steps to protect ourselves.
Absolutely. But before we get into that, let's get back to the lawyer. Remember, the court didn't let Manese off the hook. What kind of consequences did he face for his actions?
Well, they revoked his notarial commission.
Oh, wow.
Which means he couldn't act as a notary public anymore.
Right.
They also barred him from even applying for that role for 2 years.
Wow.
And suspended him from practicing law for the same period.
Wow. Those are some serious consequences.
Yeah.
They clearly wanted to send a message that this kind of negligence wouldn't be tolerated.
It also underlines the significance of a notary public's role.
Yes.
They're not just rubber stamping documents, they play a crucial part in upholding the integrity of the legal system.
But we're not done yet. We've got a dead woman's signature, a land dispute spanning decades, and a lawyer facing the music.
Wow.
And you know what? This is just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, boy.
We'll be right back after a short break.
Welcome back to our deep dive. We've been unpacking this case from the Philippines, a story that blends a land dispute with a dash of the supernatural, a ghost signing a deed.
Right. It's like something out of a courtroom drama, but with real-life consequences. We left off with the lawyer, Oscar Manese, facing some serious repercussions for notarizing that questionable document. But what about Fidel Aquino, the farmer, who had been working this land for years? Did this whole forged deed mean he lost his claim?
That's where things get really interesting. Remember, that Court of Appeals decision from 1988, the one that recognized Aquino as the rightful tenant even against those claims from the Perez family, well, that decision was a key piece of evidence in this whole saga.
So even though this new deed of absolute sale tried to transfer ownership of Aquino's rights as a tenant affirmed by the Court of Appeals, still held up.
It's a good reminder that legal systems can be complex with different layers of rights and protections. In this case, that earlier court decision acted like a shield for Aquino. It basically said, no matter who tries to claim this land on paper, Aquino has rights based on his long history here.
That's a relief. I was honestly worried this whole thing would mean he'd be kicked off the land he had been working on for so long.
It's a reminder that sometimes history and actual use of land can trump a piece of paper, even a deed. This case is like a legal puzzle, and we've only just started putting the pieces together.
Speaking of puzzle pieces, we've talked about the deed of absolute sale and the Court of Appeals decision, but there was a whole stack of other documents in this case. What else do we have to work with?
Well, picture this. It's 1989, and another one of the original owner's heirs, Jose Cardona, signs a special power of attorney, and guess who it's in favor of? Fidel Aquino.
Wait, so Aquino had even more legal standing in all of this?
That's right. This document gave him the authority to act on behalf of Jose Cardona in any legal matters concerning the land. It suggests there was a level of trust between them acknowledging Aquino's connection to the property.
It's fascinating how these documents add layers to the story. We're not just talking about a stranger trying to grab some land. There's a deeper relationship at play here.
Exactly. And there's more. We also have a general power of attorney this time from the original owner himself, Luis Cardona, also in favor of Fidel Aquino. It's like they're saying, we trust you to handle matters related to this land.
Wow, so even before this whole ghost signature incident, Aquino was deeply involved with this land. But hold on, we're dealing with a lot of legal terms here. Special power of attorney general, power of attorney. What's the difference and why should our listener care?
You're right, it's important to break these things down. Think of a power of attorney like giving someone permission to act on your behalf. A special power of attorney is limited to specific actions or situations like selling a property. A general power of attorney gives someone broader authority to handle various matters, often financial or legal. In this case, these documents show that the original owner and his heir trusted Aquino to represent their interests regarding the land.
Okay, that makes sense. So these power of attorney documents strengthen Aquino's claim to the land even further. But wait, there's one more document you mentioned earlier, a certification from the Department of Agrarian Reform dating back to 1977. Why is that important?
This document takes us back to that initial conflict between Aquino and the Perez family back in 1975. Remember, they tried to claim the land, sparking that legal battle. This certification supports Aquino's side, recognizing him as the legitimate tenant and stating that the Perez family was prohibited from cultivating the land. It's like official recognition from a government agency that Aquino had rights to this land way back then.
So we've got a whole paper trail supporting Aquino's connection to the land going back decades. But with all these legal documents and court proceedings, it's easy to get lost in the technicalities. What does all of this actually mean for Fidel Aquino, the man at the center of this whole ordeal?
It's crucial to remember that this is about more than just signatures on paper. It's about a farmer, his livelihood, and his connection to the land. Imagine the stress and uncertainty he must have felt when this forged deed appeared, potentially threatening everything he'd worked for.
It's a powerful reminder that legal cases, no matter how complex or seemingly abstract, often involve real people and their lives. We can't lose sight of the human element in all of this.
You're absolutely right. This case highlights the importance of not only understanding the legal intricacies, but also acknowledging the emotional impact on those involved.
And that brings up a question for me. We know the lawyer faced consequences, but what about the Perez family who presented the forged deed? What happened to them?
That's a great question. Unfortunately, the documents we have don't provide clear answers about the legal ramifications they might have faced. But this raises a broader point about accountability. If someone knowingly presents a forged document, shouldn't there be repercussions?
Absolutely. It goes back to that idea of trust in the legal system. If people can get away with forging documents without consequences, what does that say about the integrity of the system as a whole?
It's a question worth pondering, and it leads us to another layer of this case, the ethical considerations. We've talked about legal consequences, but what about the ethical obligations of those involved, not just the lawyer, but everyone who played a part in this situation?
That's a great point. We've got a lot to unpack there. But before we dive into the ethical aspects of this case, let's take a quick pause. Dear listener, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What stands out to you most in this story so far? What questions are swirling in your mind? We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into this fascinating case from the Philippines.
It's a story that really highlights the importance of trust.
Yeah, and responsibility.
Right. And upholding a just legal system.
We've covered a lot of ground so far, from that ghost signature on the deed to the legal battle over the land.
Right.
And the role of the courts in protecting Fidel Aquino's rights.
Exactly. And as we delve into the ethical aspects of this case, it becomes clear that the lawyer's actions have implications that go far beyond just this one dispute.
You're right. The Supreme Court didn't mince words when they talked about Oscar Manese's breach of the Code of Professional Responsibility.
Right. Canon. That's the one that emphasizes a lawyer's duty to uphold the law.
Yeah, and legal processes.
It's about more than just following rules. It's about maintaining the integrity of the entire legal system.
Exactly. When a lawyer notarizes a document, they're basically vouching for its authenticity.
Right, like saying, I've checked this out, you can trust it.
But in this case, that trust was broken.
And that has consequences.
It makes you wonder how we can prevent these situations from happening again.
It's a tough question. How do we balance convenience with security when it comes to legal documents?
Right. How do we make sure that those who are supposed to be upholding the law are actually doing so?
We need to find ways to ensure that notarization is more than just a rubber stamp.
Exactly. Maybe stricter verification procedures or advancements in technology like digital signatures.
Those could help.
But ultimately, it comes down to individual responsibility.
And accountability.
Right. The actions of one person can erode public trust in the entire system.
And that's something we can't afford.
So as we close out this deep dive, we want to leave you with a few questions to ponder.
What are your thoughts on the role of technology in ensuring the integrity of legal documents?
And how can we, as individuals, advocate for greater transparency and accountability within the legal system?
This case may be from the past,
Yeah.
but the lessons it holds are timeless.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into a notarized ghost story.
We'll see you next time.